Justice Department moves to dismiss a class action lawsuit filed by the January 6 rioters seeking damages under the Federal Tort Claims Act. The department argues the claim filings happened after that legal deadline, making them forever barred under federal law. The filing comes just a day after acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche rescinded the controversial anti-weaponization fund. Live now to CBS News Justice reporter Jake Rosen. So, Jake, does this close the door on any future compensation claims?
At least for any claim that was brought after January 2023, or 2023, according to this DOJ filing last night. Now, one of the major questions going into the last couple of weeks of the back and forth between Republicans and Democrats and Todd Blanche was whether his Justice Department would use what's called the Judgment Fund, which is essentially read a congressionally approved blank check to dole out settlements to those that any DOJ officer believes potentially could have been either wrongly prosecuted or has a legitimate claim against the government. We've seen the Trump administration do this in the last couple of weeks with anti-abortion rights protesters who were prosecuted under the Biden administration, handing them, in some cases, seven-figure settlements. What this lawsuit filed earlier last year hoped to do was take a group of January 6 defendants who were prosecuted for their actions on that day, sue the federal government in a class action lawsuit claiming that they're entitled to some kind of damages and potentially get a payout through that way, as there are different ways that Republicans and Democrats in the Senate and in Congress have kind of speculated that the White House and the Trump administration could use. But at least last night, the Department of Justice took a stand, at least on one front of this, saying that any claim that was brought more than 2 years after January 6 is not valid and not legitimate, and that the lawsuit should be dismissed. It's simply just a notable data point in development, especially given what we saw this morning with the Senate Judiciary Committee moving to advance Todd Blanche into a full potential Senate vote later this week. Just simply one data point of what the Department of Justice is doing and is not doing to potentially clear any kind of barrier to give any kind of payout to somebody who was prosecuted and potentially convicted for their actions on January 6th.
Okay, so Jake, the other headline I've got to ask you about, getting a lot of attention, the reporting that U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro is in hot water with the president over dropping charges against those accused of damaging the much talked about D.C. reflecting pool. Somebody, in fact, spotted her carrying a box not far from the White House. That sparked a lot of talk, a lot of people wondering if she faces firing. Is her job safe today?
It is, and according to our CBS News reporting, she brought evidence, including some of those internal Department of Interior reports with her that her office received from Doug Burgum, secretary of that agency, that she says she got in the last couple of days and weeks, which led up to Friday and this weekend's decision to drop the criminal charges against not just former Olympian David Hearn, who's probably the most high-profile case when he was accused earlier this year of damaging the reflecting pool, but also 3 others. And I spoke to attorneys for all 3 of the other people who were charged with misdemeanors last night. They all called what happened to their clients nightmares, a misuse of justice, and true politicization of the Justice Department and of the White House to prosecute people for clearly what was a construction error, and in the words of the DOJ and Pirro's office, a botched construction job. It appears that Pirro at least has a job for now. Certainly notable, and the latest development and the most high-profile and embarrassing development for President Trump, as you know, Reed, and we've covered for the last couple of months. The reflecting pool renovations were part of and are part of President Trump's massive move to overturn parts of D.C. and the landmarks here, to renovate them in what he sees as the way they should be done, whether it's polishing up statues, fixing monuments, the Kennedy Center, you name it. And by redoing this pool, Pirro's office said essentially in the rush to get it ready for July 4th, they had to get it done, and DOJ decided to drop all of these charges, basically saying that they did not have evidence that any of these people who were accused of damaging the reflecting pool actually did so.
All right, Jake Rosen, thank you so much. Good to talk to you today.